What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another FPL video on Fantasy Football Scout. Today it's transfer watch time for Game Week 7, so as always, going to go through some of the most popular transfers in, some of the most popular transfers out, talk about them, discuss whether they're good moves, bad moves, are the players being brought in going to keep up their FPL point scoring, who are the best replacements for those being taken out, that kind of thing. If you enjoy this video, please do give it a like, hit that subscribe button, help us hit 75k, and then let's jump in to the first player. So first transfer in is Zaha. 102,535 managers have already bought him in, and to be fair, he's becoming harder to ignore out now. 48 points already this season. That's 8 points per match. Without Milivojevic, he's taking penalties. We've seen Van Aanholt not started the last two games, even though he's been on the bench. Now, he did take some penalties previously for Crystal Palace, but to be honest, even as a non-owner, I'm thinking Zaha just keeps them if Milivojevic isn't on the pitch. So why would they give them to Van Aanholt when Zaha's kind of cruising along a bit this season? It's not something that he's going to want to stop, and he's certainly not going to want to give up the penalties. It doesn't necessarily mean that that won't happen, but it's obviously something to bear in mind, because a couple of seasons ago, we saw how many Crystal Palace got. Zaha's the type of player that will win penalties. And yeah, it could be decent for him, as well as the goals he scored from open play as well. Stats-wise, 2.26 non-penalty XG is not bad. Currently, expected goal involvement is third out of all players, right? Obviously, that is topped up a little bit by the penalties he's had, but he's third just behind Kane and Salah. Obviously, Kane's still got to play tonight, so that'd be interesting to see. And overall, the next 5 fixtures on paper look quite good. Wolves away, Leeds at home, Burnley away, Newcastle at home, West Brom away. I think for people that jumped on Fulham, they're probably quite happy with that fixture schedule. Without trying to overthink it too much, I mean, Wolves away is tricky for any team. Leeds at home is difficult enough. We saw Villa struggle against them as well, although Grealish did come close to scoring. Burnley away, who knows what they'll be like. They don't typically concede a huge amount of goals, although this season they haven't been ideal. We'll have to still wait and see how they do against Spurs tonight as well. But overall, I think the next 5 fixtures look okay. Palace expected goals is higher than Man United, higher than Man City so far, which is pretty crazy. Given the fixtures and form, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to bring him in. He's only 7.2 million. We do tend to see a period of the season where Zaha is a good option, and then it all goes downhill quite rapidly. But you can't deny that he's been doing pretty well so far. And like I said, the penalty situation does kind of help him a bit. I do think kind of Wolves away is just not a great fixture. So I'm not looking to bring him in still, but I'm not completely against him. Like, I look at Newcastle at home, West Brom away, I think that looks really good. But the next 3 fixtures, I'm just not quite so sure. Like, after watching them against Brighton, they were so bad going forward. I know he's just got a goal and an assist, but that was against Fulham, right? Fulham and West Brom are about the best fixtures you can get. So if you bring him in this week, not saying it's a bad decision, but I also wouldn't be completely surprised if he blanks. Patrick Bamford just cannot stop scoring. 6 goals in 6 games is a pretty decent return, and probably something we should be looking at. 5.9 million, still a good price, even though he's just gone up 0.1 million overnight. Transfers in so far, 184,879. I tell you what, that's going to keep going up, right? You don't score a hat-trick and don't get plenty of transfers in. And obviously, the price is good as well, and he's an easy buy from anyone that's got the likes of Antonio, if they wanted to get rid of him, Mitrovic, etc., etc. Anyone that jumped on Watkins early now might be regretting it. And suddenly Bamford comes into play at 5.9 million. I think one of the things that I kind of like about him, like, I have been a little bit put off because his expected goals, non-penalty, is 3.25, and he scored 6, right? So chances are he's not going to be able to keep up this run of form, apart from when it's really good fixtures, of course. Interestingly enough, last year he only scored 16 goals from 24.82 expected goals. So this could just be some regression going on, right? Maybe he's scoring a little bit more than he should, because last year he didn't score enough, right? He should have probably scored a few more. He missed quite a few big chances. And the one thing I liked, which I kind of thought about after the Man City game, is how many chances Leeds are creating, right? They had 20 shots in the box versus Aston Villa. They're 5th for XG so far this season, and they're 2nd for shots in the box. 2nd out of all teams, right? And obviously teams like Spurs haven't played yet. They're going to play against Burnley away tonight at the time of recording this, but that is pretty impressive, and they are creating quite a few chances. And with Bamford keeping his place, and with 6 goals and 6, I just don't see how he loses it anytime soon. He could be a really good option for 5.9. Now, the only thing that would put me off right now is the fixtures, right? So it depends. If you're a form person over fixtures, then fair enough, bring them in. Leicester at home, Palace away, Arsenal at home, Everton away, Chelsea away, right? That is the next 5 fixtures. Now, I think Leeds have been impressive. I think the Villa result wasn't really that. Like, I think people were expecting Villa to be the better team and the favourites for that game. And again, that that Grealish shot that got cleared off the line, if that goes in at 0-0, it's maybe a completely different game. But ultimately, Leeds were very good, right? And I think that's what people are slowly coming to realise, that Leeds are actually a good team. And when they play teams like Aston Villa, they're not necessarily looking to, or they shouldn't be. We shouldn't be looking at them thinking they are the ones that are going to lose. But Leicester, Palace, Everton, Arsenal and Chelsea, they just don't scream a huge amount of goals for me. On the flip side, he's only 5.9 million. He's probably going to keep going up in price this week, maybe another 0.1. If he scores against Leicester, that's going to be another 0.1, another 0.2. And suddenly you're looking at a cheap player you can just set and forget. Obviously, there's other players that are doing well at the moment as well. Che Adams, he's only on 2 goals, but it's 2 and 2 now for him. His underlying stats looking good, and maybe he's starting to perform on them as well. So I do think Bamford, I'm slowly coming around to him as an option. I still don't think the next 5 fixtures are great. From game week 12, then you're suddenly looking at West Ham, Newcastle, Burnley, West Brom in the space of 5 game weeks. That screams bring him in for me. Right, so I don't know. I'm not sat here saying you're making a mistake if you bring him in, but I just think those next 5 fixtures are tricky, even for Leeds, who are doing really well. But 20 shots inside the box against Villa, the second highest amount of shots over 6 games already in the league. They're creating plenty of chances. He's the main striker. He's going to get chances, but obviously don't bring him in expecting hat-tricks every week. So not surprising that Luca Dean is being transferred out. 120,940 managers have already had enough, right? He's been sent off. He's going to be out till game week 10, so he's going to miss the next 3 game weeks. And to be honest, like, people are talking about an appeal. It seems very unlikely that would be overturned. Whether you think it was accidental or not, I just think the type of challenge is just not going to be overturned. We'll have to wait and see if it is. If they even appeal, again, we'll have to wait and see on that. There may be someone that can be kept. I can see why people are getting rid of him. Interestingly, just quick side note before we talk about replacements, we could see a £4 million defender now coming in for the next 3 weeks for Everton. So I think his name is Nkunku. I probably pronounced that wrong. I do apologise. If anyone knows the correct pronunciation, maybe I'll look it up after this. But I don't think we're going to be talking about him a huge amount this season. But for the next 3 game weeks, he could be an option at Everton. But Everton now missing quite a few players. Like, Richarlison's still out suspended. Obviously, Luca Dean might be missing out. Coleman's injured. James Rodriguez not out, and nothing's really been said about him. But he didn't look completely comfortable at the end of the game. We know, obviously, he was an injury doubt before the game as well. Until Ancelotti kind of said he'd been training and stuff. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on him. Gomez is out as well. Sigurdsson, I thought he played well against, I think it was Brighton, but he did not play well yesterday. And overall, I don't know, Iwobi didn't look good. Now, to be fair, Southampton were very good, right? All credit to them. They kind of stopped Everton playing completely. But yeah, I wasn't impressed with Everton at all. So Luca Dean being out as well just does not help their overall team. But let's talk about him in particular. Obviously, if he's going to miss the next 3 games, he's a good transfer out. Gives you a chance to probably save some money. I don't think many people are going to be going up to Liverpool players right now. So yeah, I like the look of taking Luca Dean out. So it depends. I mean, there's loads of options you could go for. I think last week we spoke through quite a few cheap options. Like, if you want to stick around at a similar price, so you got Castagna for Leicester, very attacking. Leicester pretty good for clean sheets as well, I would say. Short term, I'm not 100% sure about the fixtures. Leeds away, just spoken about them, how many chances they're creating. I'm sure they'll do well against Leicester. Wolves at home is an interesting one, actually, because I put that down as a difficult fixture, but they're just not scoring many goals, right? Their expected goals is very low as a team. That's Wolves, that is. Obviously, if Jimenez gets a chance, then fair enough. He's more likely to put it away than most. But that's actually probably not a bad game for a clean sheet. Liverpool away is tricky. And then in the longer term, it's really good. Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton, Everton. I actually think Castagna looks quite good to bring in. I was a little bit worried about bringing him in. Just kept a clean sheet against Arsenal. I think Leeds away will be tricky, but Wolves is doable. So I'm looking at the next kind of, 7 fixtures. Wolves, Fulham, Sheffield United, Brighton, Everton. They could be good for clean sheets. Everton, potentially if they got all their players back at that point fit, that would be a difficult game. But I think there's clean sheets in there. We know he's an attacking player as well. So I think he's quite a good option. Saiss, I think he looks good as well. I think people are worried about Wolves' kind of longer term fixtures, but again, I see Palace, Leicester, Southampton, Villa in the next 5. Obviously, Arsenal and Liverpool are tricky, but there's a few clean sheets there. Wolves one of the best defences in the league as well. I would be worried about bringing him in this week, I won't lie. I've taken him out on my wild card, regretting it already, and I've got Palace at home next, which looks really good. But the fact that Marçal came back in at left wing back, like everyone's saying now, Kilman's first choice, Saiss is going to slot in. We just don't know, right? That is the honest answer. You buy a Wolves defender this week, it's tricky to know unless you're getting Semedo, Bolly, or Cody. Like Marcel came on, Saiss went off. Now, did Saiss go off because Kilman's first choice, or did Saiss go off because he hadn't played centre back for that game? Will Saiss come in at left centre back? Marcel go and play left wing back? They've kept another clean sheet, mate. Oh, they didn't keep a clean sheet, but they did while Saiss was on the pitch. Maybe they just go with Saiss left wing back and Kilman left centre back again. We just don't know, but that would probably put me off enough to buy him this week. And then Chilwell is the other one. I think with Mendy and Thiago Silva, I think Mendy's played 3 games, not conceded any goals in those games with 3 clean sheets. I saw a really interesting image on Twitter. I can't remember who it's from, but basically he's saying that with the way Chelsea are playing, yes, Mendy is good, but also he's facing shots from further range. So obviously Chelsea are conceding less shots in the box. So that looks good. And with Thiago Silva there, that obviously shores up that defence quite a bit. So Chilwell looks like a great option. He's actually gone up again. He's 5.8 million now. But Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle, Spurs and Leeds in the next 5. I think Chelsea are good for clean sheets, and I think Chilwell's attacking. He's nailed on, unlike Reece James and Azpilicueta. Obviously, he's a little bit more expensive than Thiago Silva, but Thiago Silva does not offer much goal threat either. Zuma could be an option if he keeps his place, but I think Chilwell is the best option. So I really like Chilwell, and I think Castagna is probably worth looking at too. And last up, we've got Mitrovic being transferred out by 51,795. So there wasn't a huge amount of big transfers out, like 200,000-300,000. So I would say maybe people waiting for the end of the game week, because obviously we're recording this on Monday before the last 2 games have been played. Or it's just that the market is going to be a little less volatile going forward. There has been a lot of price movement so far. But yeah, transferred out quite a bit. He's had 22 shots in the box so far, but 12 of them have been headers, which are pretty... Generally, you're less likely to score from a header than just a standard shot in the box. So 22 shots in the box is big, but 12 of them being headers is not necessarily great. But that is, 22 shots is the same as Salah so far. But he's played 6 matches, only scored in 1 of them. So he scored 2 goals. They were both against Leeds. And so far, you know, with the likes of Antonio doing well and having a good fixture run coming up in Game Week 8, Bamford, who we've already talked about, Che Adams now starting to score as well. You can see why people are kind of getting cold feet with Mitrovic. But this is going to be their best fixture of the season. West Brom at home up next. Now, a lot of people have already got rid of him before seeing West Brom this week. They're about to play Brighton. Brighton, yes, better team than Fulham. But just imagine if Morpay goes and scores a couple of goals against West Brom, or Trossard gets a couple of goals. And suddenly you're thinking, well, actually, do you know what? West Brom are pretty rubbish. I've got Mitrovic at home. Maybe I could keep him 1 more week. The only downside is, he's already, like, looking on sites like FPL Statistics, he's already minus 22% for a price drop this week. That probably will keep going up before the end of the game. You could see another price drop. But if you're happy to eat that price drop and you've got other priority moves to make, I really do think you could just keep Mitrovic for 1 more week. West Brom are the worst team in the league for expected goals conceded. You can go and check out stats like this in the Fantasy Football Scout members area, by the way. There's a link in the description below. But they are the worst so far this season, and they've not even played tonight as well. And Brighton, I think, have looked quite good. So I think we could see West Brom get even worse on the underlying numbers tonight, and ultimately get worse on the amount of goals conceded. So people that are getting rid of Mitrovic, I can absolutely see why. I think there's much, much better options. I would not be looking to bring him in or to have him in my team longer term. But could he get points against West Brom at home? Absolutely. Like, for most teams, the best fixtures this season would be West Brom at home and Fulham at home. Obviously, Mitrovic can't play Fulham at home. Otherwise, he'd probably get a few goals in that one. So his next best fixture is West Brom at home, and he's got it this week in Game Week 7. So if you can hold out 1 more week, I'd think about doing it. Because ultimately you get rid of him and then he scores. You can't be too frustrated, right? Because you'll just think, well, as West Brom, in hindsight, yes, I probably should have kept. But again, fully appreciate the price drops. No one wants to eat them too much. So that is frustrating. But West Brom at home, really good fixture. Worth holding on for 1 more week for me. That's it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the players I've talked about. Who are the best replacements for Luka Dean? Are Zaha and Bamford the real deal? And should people be holding on to Mitrovic for 1 more week? Leave me a comment below. Let Let me know what you think. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed it as well. Much appreciated. All the support on this channel has been huge this season so far. And hit that subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already. It's free to do. You'll know when all our other videos are going live and all that jazz as well. Like I said during the video, if you want to check out the Fantasy Football Scout members area, there is a link in the description below. There's loads of stuff over there, loads of tools, loads of stats from Opta, loads of extra articles. It really is great value for money. So if you want to check it out, link in the description below. Otherwise, we will catch you tomorrow for some more videos, captaincy and scoutcast. So keep an eye out for that.